executive search market is booming right across the world. So you take some of the figures in the US, you're seeing 20 and 30% growth in executive search quarter on quarter, actually, in some places at the moment. So absolutely, it is a growth market, and therefore there are certain people in certain leadership positions who are getting much higher rate of approach. That they're getting talked to about more roles, and therefore they are harder to get a conversation with. But there certainly are some themes that are coming out quite strongly. So a lot of organisations are starting to bring digital roles or customer experience roles onto the board. So particularly when you've got a retail organisation, let's say, who's been through the pandemic, who maybe didn't have a very strong online presence before the pandemic. There were some. Some of those organisations have really felt the need to bring very, very heavyweight digital resource into their board to enable them to pivot their businesses to be effective, both in lockdown and post-lockdown. So that's certainly something we've seen. And then as an extension of that, some organisations that already have a very strong digital presence are looking at customer experience in much more detail than they ever have before, because again, those organisations during the pandemic that didn't do a good job around customer experience lost out to those that did. So again, these are roles that are becoming much higher profile, and therefore very often are getting promoted onto an operating board. Good leadership succession does engage ahead of need. When you come to the point where you're trying to engage with that individual for a vacancy or an opportunity, it's much easier to have that conversation because there is already a relationship. It's hard to do. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of leadership time because that engagement process with potential future talent is speculative by its very nature. So actually a busy executive will only have so much time to engage in those socialization meetings that are so important to really good leadership succession. But those organizations that do it well are really seeing the benefit now, but they have to have started some time ago. Starting a leadership succession program now isn't going to give you results maybe for a couple of years, certainly up to 12 months. The way that we and others do it is, we will look at leadership succession over a period of time. We will go and identify, based on the client's criteria, who are the talent that fit their criteria in whichever market they want, however broad or narrow that might be. We'll then engage with that talent ahead of need, and we'll introduce that talent to the organisation. And we won't talk to the talent about a role. We'll talk to the talent about what is it that motivates them. What are they looking to get out of the next career? What does a good relationship with an employer look like? What's important to them? What hours are they looking for? What flexibility do they need? And we package all that information up, present it to the client, and then those people that where there's a fit and of the right level of skill will have socialization activities with the client, so that when that point of need comes, yes, they might not be the sexiest brand, but they have a cohort of relevant and qualified people who already have a relationship with their business. So you're not starting from scratch of point of need. Let's find somebody with the right skill. Let's hope we can persuade them to move to us by paying them more money or trying to paint our business to be something maybe it isn't. So again, those things lead to year one failure or failure to a point. And a lot of cases it is just as simple as you will get the sponsoring, the board sponsor, so whether it be CEO, CFO, CHRO, usually one of those, or sometimes a chairman, and they will just spend time with that individual talking about the organisation and talking about that individual and their career aspirations. If you think about most of those sort of interactions between somebody external and somebody on the board, it's with a view to a role. So the person who is the interviewee, for want of a better phrase, is having to sell all the time, whereas actually in this environment they're not. They understand more about the business. They get to understand more about the drivers and motivations of the individual who's leading the business, and vice versa. So it's a very different style. It's a very different style of meeting. It is more akin to a business meeting than an interview. So actually, the engagement is much deeper